let's get ready for training camp and welcome in Jets defenseman Neal Pionk to the show. Neal, what's going on, man? How are you? How was your summer?
Good. How are you guys doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. We can hear
Perfect.
you fine. We are great. We were just looking ahead to the schedule and some of the games coming up. Do you look at the schedule when it comes out every year? I mean, when it's released, are you like the fans looking at all the big games, or are you even taking a look at it right now? You just know that you start in Calgary on October 11th.
Yeah, I take an initial look at it, but then I would say after I put it away for about a month, and then once August rolls around, I kind of start studying it, kind of the big games, you circle them, and kind of a couple of the big home games, who we play in our home opener, stuff like that. So it gets to an exciting time of the year.
Yeah, speaking of the home opener, familiar face on the other side, Maurice and the Florida Panthers, after that crazy playoff run that they had, coming in for a little matinee after starting it off. I mean, Dubois coming back. I mean, that month of October, the first of all, some really, really interesting games for the team. But, I mean, as you well know, there's no gimmies and there's no easy ones in the National Hockey League, and you got to be ready to get after it right out of the gate, as you and the fellas will be for that one-game roadie in Calgary on Wednesday, the 11th of October.
Yeah, we played them a couple times in preseason, so it'll be a fun little test for us out at Calgary in the first game. It's always a rowdy building too, so we'll have to be ready. And then, yeah, like you said, the first couple home games those are fun. I saw we play 3 or 4 home games right in a row there, Florida and LA. So it's those will be fun games. It's always a fun month in October, kind of kicking the season off.
How was your summer?
Fantastic. Live on a lake back home in Duluth, so got plenty of time on the pontoon, jet skis. Just got back to Winnipeg on Tuesday, so excited to be back and ready to work.
I think we saw you spend a lot of time on the boat, and I mean, listen, Manitoba, Minnesota, regardless of what side of the border you're on, it is lake season around. Have you been doing that pretty much, your whole professional life once you're able to get a spot there? Is that and will that be your plan pretty much every off season going forward?
Yeah, every off season. My wife and I, it's a good unwind and unplug kind of. We go out to the lake, and it's especially on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning. It's dead quiet. You're literally the only boat on the lake. It's very nice. The season is 8-9 months of pure chaos. Whether it's the season, travel, family, and guests coming in. So that's a good getaway to have for us, and we've enjoyed it the last 5 years.
How different is the beginning of the summer, right after the playoffs finish for the squad, and you come back and you just played the entire year? How different is that first month as opposed to the month of August for you, where you're ramping up to get going again in September in training camp with your teammates?
The first month is fun. It's we just kind of hang out and relax. You get home, myself personally, I got bumps and bruises, and just mentally kind of unplug. I try to turn off the phone as much as I can, try to go on the boat as much as I can, maybe travel a little bit, but I'm not working out for that first month or skate for that first month, so it's total unwind time. Compared to this last month, it's almost the exact opposite. All of a sudden, you're looking at the schedule, you're getting fired up, training 4 or 5 times a week, skating 4 or 5 times a week, so it's kind of go time towards the end of August.
What do you watch the playoffs? Were you able to watch it afterwards? After you guys were eliminated, or do you just not even want to look at it because you're still pissed off about what happened a few weeks earlier?
Yeah, the first couple of weeks I didn't. Kind of the same story every year. First couple of weeks I don't watch anything. Once I kind of unwind and we get kind of back home, settled in, just hanging out, I'll turn on a few games, and then I'll watch a fair amount of the Cup final, but. Yeah, I watch a few playoff games, so it was fun. I mean, any bar or restaurant you walk into back home, the hockey's on. It's just like Canada. I'm sure Minnesota's kind of the same way. So there was hockey all over the place, and I don't mind watching the end of it.
Neal Pionk with us from the Winnipeg Jets as we get ready for a training camp, and as we mentioned, we just launched our Winnipeg Sports Talk 4-game pack. Individual tickets are going on sale on Friday for upcoming games this year. Neal, once you were able to get away from, obviously, sour taste with the way the season ended in Game 5 against Vegas, and took, a couple weeks to kind of unwind and distance yourself from it. When you look back, what do you take away from last season for your group heading into training camp next season?
What do we take away from that last series?
No, well, just the season overall. When you look back, I mean, things that you were happy about or things that, maybe you think this is a focus for myself personally or our team to take that next step.
Well, it's easy to beat yourself up, right? And not only personally, but a team, right? You go into the season, you start like we did, and then we kind of fell apart, I would say, probably after Christmas, after the All-Star break. And then we're disappointed in the playoffs. So it's easy to beat yourself up, but you got to remember to look at the positives too. Like, we were one of the best teams in the league all the way through, kind of December 1st or maybe middle of December. We played some really good games, even later in the season when we had to push. So that stuff is positive, and you got to grab those things and bring them to training camp. Obviously, you got to learn from your mistakes too, but I think it's almost more important to grab those positives and take some momentum into training camp.
The grind of a season, especially one where you qualify for the playoffs, is, there inevitably are ups and downs. Now that you're more of a veteran and been with this team a little bit more, and I think some of the younger players have now, aged and have more experience behind them. Do you think that makes the identity of a team able to, handle some of the challenges that inevitably come over the course of the year? And I guess in a shorter way of saying it, do you think this is going to be a more mature team next year? And how might that help the Winnipeg Jets over the course of that grind of 82?
Yeah, it has to be. The core of us, we're getting on that older side now. We don't have a ton of 18, 19-year-olds. We're all 25, 26, 27, 28. So we're kind of in that prime age where we've been there, done that. I know it's cliche, but it's true. Like, you go on a 3-game losing streak, it's like, okay, here's how we turn the ship, and vice versa. We go on a 3-game winning streak, it's like, okay, here's what we're doing good, and here's what we got to keep going. Along with that, just pulling in the new guys and helping them out. So that's all kind of part of being a veteran and being a leader on the team and being around for a while. You got to kind of bring everyone together and mend as best you can.
How much contact do you have with the rest of the fellas over the course of the off season? Are you talking to quite a bit of them? You still got the group chat going, or does that sort of take a pause for a little bit and then kind of ramp up around now when we know the season's right around the corner?
I would say it takes a pause for a couple of weeks, but I mean, we're a pretty close team. I have some good friends on the team, so a lot of Minnesota guys. So Schmitty and Sandberg and those guys. We chat Twins baseball all the time. Brendan Dillon, my D partner, will keep in touch with him, going back and forth between the Twins and the Mariners, which is always pretty fun. Little stuff like that. Then, like I said, Sandberg he's from Duluth, just bought a place by me, so we skate together and work out together towards the end of the summer there. And we keep in touch for the most part.
Speaking of Sandberg, a couple of the boys getting down on a knee over the last little while. He got engaged. Kyle Connor got engaged. Speaking of a team that is maturing, what's going on here?
Turning the corner, yeah, exactly. A bunch of engaged guys and married guys now. We all know the next step too. It's coming fast. It's kind of crazy to see.
Neal Pionk with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Now you're back in Winnipeg. What are the first couple of weeks for you when you get back here? Obviously, there's a lot of just settling as far as life goes, but we're hearing more and more the guys are here, as well as a couple of the new guys that came over in the Dubois trade. What are these first couple of weeks for you like before official team duties start up?
First couple of weeks are good. We're working out and skating together, getting our feet wet. On the ice, it's been good. Iafallo and Vilardi are here, so I know Al. I played with him in college a couple of years, and we've kept in touch over the last few years. So I drug him up here with me, and he's happy to be here. And getting to know Gabe the last couple of days has been great. Been good skating with those guys, and then off the ice, it's nice being off the ice when we're up here too, because we're able to golf or do whatever we want kind of in the afternoons. We're not too banged up yet, so that's not until training camp starts, but we're having a little fun right now.
I'm glad you mentioned Alex Iafallo, because I wanted to ask him, and obviously you did have a connection with him from college, but the other part of it where I thought that, there was obviously a connection is that you in a lot of ways sort of came to Winnipeg in a very similar way, and then found a home and obviously signed an extension here with Winnipeg. Because of the way that you came here as part of the Trouba trade, he came here as part of the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Have you been in some way sort of a team ambassador for the new guys, to get them here, get them settled, and help a little bit of the transition, much like happened to you a few years ago when you became a Jet?
Yeah, certainly. It's always nice to have that bridge, with somebody when you know a guy in the team. So I try to reach out right away. Even to Kupari and Vilardi, I don't know those guys, but I try to reach out right away because I know how it feels to get traded in a big trade and come to a new city where you might not know many guys. So Al was the easy one. He knew. I've known him for a while. He's a kid from outside of Buffalo. He went to school in Duluth, so he's used to the weather, used to the outdoors. He'll fit right in up here.
What do you think those guys bring to the team? And obviously, you're losing a really quality player and guy in Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's hard to replace. But Vilardi comes with a pretty good pedigree, coming off a great season. Iafallo, in particular, seems like about as quality a two-way player, and that helps you win games. I mean, what do you know about them as players, and what do you think that all three, including Kupari, will bring to the group, and how that will help the team like right off the bat?
Well, the first thing I think of when I think of Vilardi and Kupari is size. I remember I've only played against those two, a few handful of times, but I remember playing against those guys, Kupari and Vilardi. I'm like, all right, those guys are pretty big, and then they got some good skill too. I know Kupari's younger and skated with Vilardi last couple of days. He's got some sweet hands on him, so it'll be exciting for those guys. And then Iafallo, he's just steady Eddie. He's Mr. Consistent. He's always been that way. He was that way in college, and one of the best parts of his game is the stick detail, the defensive detail, and I know he can provide offense too. He was one of our best players in college, and he's been an effective NHL player too. But you just watch him closely. He picks so many pockets out there. It's pretty fun to watch.
What's interesting when you make a 3-for-1 trade like that, and obviously you had a couple of key guys come over that are here with the club at the deadline, in the Nemetsnikov, in Nito Niederreiter, is that, we've talked a lot about the competition on the blue line last year, and that competition pretty much still exists, including some younger players. It seems like, adding these guys to the mix with the players that are still here will have a different makeup and different look, and maybe add to a different identity of the forwards group. But I think both at forward and defense, some pretty significant competition once you guys get going with that first practice and training camp.
Yeah, let me tell you. I mean, there's internal competition like you guys wouldn't believe. I mean, down to Nate Schmidt asking me how many goals I scored in practice. So stuff like that. He'll come up to us in practice, and me and another guy, and he'll say, all right, goal competition, let's go. So we're doing a warm-up drill. We're counting each other's goals. But not only that, it's little things like that. And then, yeah, sure, it's big picture. We're always pushing each other. We want the best for each other. We want the best for ourselves. So that internal competition really fires everybody up and brings out the best in us. One
other guy I wanted to ask you about, because, you mentioned that there's a lot of talk between the guys. I know last year when Rick Bowness took the job, he was in touch with people throughout that summer. You talked to the coach much since the end of the season right now? And if so, what's sort of the messaging been to all the guys about the focus and what he's hoping to see from everyone when they show up ready for work?
Yeah, just a couple times. He kind of lets us have our summers, keeps us to ourselves, but he called me a couple times, and it was pretty small talk. How's the lake life? How's this? How's that? Working out, skate, yada, yada. And it was a couple-minute conversation, but kind of the point of emphasis he always has is make sure you're ready to go on training camp, and he sends us a letter before training camp saying the same thing. So we know what to expect coming in.
Is it a handwritten letter from Rick?
I think it's typed out and signed, but we got the message loud and clear, and we got the same one last year, and training camp was tough last year, so we'll be ready.
Beautiful. Neal Pionk is with us. Well, speaking of being ready, I couldn't help but notice that you were rocking a Vikings hat. It's NFL kickoff tonight.
I see that Chiefs hat too.
Hey, listen, I've been saving this. I said to everyone to start the show, I've been saving this for 6 months. Only one, Nate, is your team get to raise a banner.
That's right.
Put on the Super Bowl champs hat and make this thing happen. But what's the feeling around the Vikes? They had that crazy season last year where they won every single close game. And obviously it didn't go well in the playoffs. There's been some big changes. I mean, Dalvin's gone, Adam Thielen's gone, but still a lot of talent in that room. Probably the best receiver in the game with Justin Jefferson. Where's the optimism meter for Neal Pionk when it comes to the Viking season?
It's our year every year. We're going to win it every single year. No, that's the beauty of being I'm fired up. I mean, I'm excited. I know people say they overachieved, but it's a sign of a good team when you win those close games. So again, they got a lot of talent. They lost Cook, I know that, but Madison, pretty excited for him. They got a new defensive coordinator, good receiving core. This Addison's supposed to be pretty good. So as long as they beat the Packers twice, I think I'll be happy.
Speaking of the Packers, did you or any of your friends shed any tears when Aaron Rodgers left the Packers for the AFC and the Jets?
I texted every single one of my Packer friends, including Mason Appleton, and said, "May the tears begin." It's going to be a long couple of years, but we'll see. I mean, they always find a way. They always seem to find a way. So that's a good rivalry.
Now, I have to ask you, and this is a very topical question because of the day we're speaking on, NFL kickoff. One of my favorite things to talk about the guys either on the air or off the air when I bump in is the fantasy football league and the fantasy world. Have you guys had the draft? Is the league still going on? Who is the commissioner? What's the fantasy situation for the Winnipeg Jets as we get ready for game number 1 tonight?
Yeah, we got a league going on. Let's see. The commissioner is Kyle Connor. He runs the whole show. Of course, he was put in a pickle last year with the whole debacle about in the Buffalo situation.
Yes.
I've never seen so many texts back and forth in my life. There was a couple good arguments, but no, it's a good fantasy league. We all have fun. A couple guys are co-managers. So this year, I'm co-managing with Nemestikov. He wanted to get in, so I brought him on board. We had a good draft, I thought. Yahoo didn't think so, but I thought we had a good draft. So we'll see how it goes.
It's actually, and I mean, people that don't play often go, God, why do you guys obsess over your fantasy team so much? But I can imagine, it's interesting. You have a new guy like Nemestikov coming in. I can't imagine a better way early on before a season even starts to sort of get a little closer to the guys and have some fun sort of things to talk about away from the rink than a fantasy football league.
Right, it's easy conversation, and I think that's for everybody. I think Vilardi jumped on Stanley's team, so I think they finished almost last year. So they got some. They got to right the ship a little bit, but they'll be all right. But no, you're right on that. It's easy conversation for Vladdy and for Gabe to come in and just chat about something that seems silly or seems stupid as fantasy football, but it's pretty fun banter around the locker room, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, listen, and you brought up, I mean, obviously it was a horrible tragedy, and thank God Damar Hamlin's around.
Right.
But, I mean, the impact of that game and canceling the game, basically, which they didn't have much choice to do. I mean, there were billions of dollars around the world tied into that result. Did you guys just do a split in the final, or was it the game pretty much already done? Like, how did you resolve it? Because every league, I think, kind of did different depending on their situation.
Yeah, I think we did some sort of a split. I can't remember who exactly it was between, but yeah, there was a lot of arguments because, of course, you're in multiple fantasy leagues, so each league kind of had their own way of doing it. Man, what a situation. I remember sitting down that night, and I turned the TV on. It was the first play I saw, and the last play too. And I grabbed my wife. I said, "You won't even believe what just happened." And then she's kind of watching the TV, and it was crazy. And like you said, thank goodness he's all right. But yeah, it turned into quite the storm there.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, you're worried about, I mean, this young man's life, but let's just say that the fantasy commissioners earned their non-existent paycheck last year and dealt with a heck of a lot. Neal, this has been a lot of fun having you on the program right now, and welcome back to Winnipeg. And obviously, people are looking forward to FanFest and everything going on. Just before we go, you've been doing this for a few times. I mean, just generally, what's your feeling about the upcoming season? And from talking to the guys, the level of excitement to get back together and get after it again.
I'm excited. Every time, like I said, when you go home in the spring and May and in June, you kind of unplug, you unwind, relax, and you think about hockey really. But for me, it's when free agency hits. As soon as that's done, it's like, okay, here's our team, here we go. And then once the first week of September hits, I feel like a kid back in school for the first time and excited to do so. You go there, you see all your old buddies, you see all your old teammates, and you feel like a kid again. You're playing a sport for a living, and it's good. It's really fun. I can't wait for everyone to get here.
Hey, you mentioned free agency just before we go.
Yep.
As someone that has a contract, you're not a free agent after this year, how much do you pay attention to the off-season market every year? This was a little bit of a weird one because it seemed like a lot of guys were taking one-year deals knowing the cap was going up. I mean, is that something that you pay close attention to? Or, like a lot of other people just seeing the ticker, oh, this guy's going there, more caring about where players are playing and who's in and out of your own club?
A little bit of both. I like following where guys are going more so. The money is what it is. Everyone's got their own situation and own preferences. But as far as where everyone's going, I'm July 1st, I'm probably on my phone all day. I'm on NHL Network, TSN, whatever it is, trying to refresh, trying to see where guys are going. So that stuff excites me. That stuff's fun. But yeah, before that, don't really follow it much. And after free agency, it's go time.
How much do you talk to your agent in the off season and throughout the year? And is it different in a contract year or when you're in the middle of a deal?
Yeah, it's different in a contract year. Totally depends on the guy. I would say I talked to my agent a few times throughout the year, just checking in, saying what's up, talking about everything, really. Talking about life, talking about different games, what games he's seeing, different clients. So it's fun. We have a good relationship. Yeah, it's been good.
Hey, even an agent might have some fantasy advice for you. Should I drop this guy? Should I make a trade?
Exactly. He knows everything. So,
hey, Neal, this has been a lot of fun having you on the program. I know a lot of people in chat fired up. Appreciate you coming on with us, and enjoy a couple rounds of golf and maybe the Banjo Bowl on Saturday. It should be an absolute madhouse down at IG Field for that Bomber Rider tilt, and then the first Sunday of NFL football, and then it's back to real life with a few more obligations. But tell you what, we're looking forward to seeing you and the fellas back on the ice. Cannot wait for the season, and we'll look forward to talking to you some point later on this year. Thanks so much for doing this, and all the best going into training camp.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.